Hey everyone! Welcome to TWT, where today we're boldly going where some have gone before, but a lot of folks haven't, if we're being honest, into the world of Star Trek technology that we have in the real world. When Gene Roddenberry dreamed up Star Trek, he envisioned a future filled with incredible technology. And you know what? A lot of that stuff wasn't just cool sci-fi, it actually inspired real-world scientists and engineers to make it a reality. Feel free to engage those anti-gravity boots because we're about to take a deep dive into 30 pieces of Star Trek tech that we can actually use today. Get ready to have your mind blown, because some of this stuff is straight out of the 24th century. Remember when Captain Picard would just walk up to the Replicator and say, "Tea, Earl Grey, hot?" Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but 3D printing is getting pretty darn close. Think about it. You design something on a computer, and then a machine builds it layer by layer out of plastic, metal, even chocolate. It's not quite instant Earl Grey, but hey, we can print out prosthetics, houses, even pizza. Give it a few more years, and who knows, maybe we'll all have replicators in our kitchens. Bones had it easy with his tricorder, just waving it over someone and instantly knowing what was wrong. We might not be zapping people with a handheld device yet, but we've got some pretty amazing medical diagnostic tools that would make McCoy proud. From portable ultrasound machines to smartphone attachments that can detect ear infections, we're getting closer and closer to that tricorder dream. And the best part? No more awkward doctor's visits. The holodeck where you could be anything, do anything, go anywhere. It was the ultimate escape, and let's be honest, we all secretly wished we had one. Well, VR headsets might not be quite as immersive, yet, but they're getting there. From exploring ancient Rome to battling dragons in fantastical realms, VR is letting us live out our wildest fantasies. And with haptic suits and ever-improving graphics, who knows, maybe we'll be scheduling holodeck time with our therapists soon. Remember those clunky communicator flip phones? Yeah, those were cool. For about 5 minutes. But you know what's way cooler? Our smartphones? They're basically mini computers that fit in our pockets and can do pretty much anything. We can video chat with anyone, anywhere in the world, and beyond if you count astronauts on the ISS, access information instantly, and even control our homes with a few taps. Take that, Starfleet. Those sleek pads were basically the precursors to our beloved tablets and e-readers. Remember when Data would store all his books and research on those things? Well, now we can carry entire libraries in our backpacks. Tablets and e-readers let us read, watch movies, listen to music, and even work from anywhere. And with the rise of digital textbooks, maybe one day we'll even say goodbye to those back-breaking backpacks for good. Okay, admit it, those Hyposprays were a little freaky at first, but once you got past the whole needleless injection thing, you had to admit it was pretty cool. And guess what? We have those now. Well, sort of. Needle-free injection technology is being used to deliver vaccines and other medications using high-pressure jets or even sound waves. So yeah, no more giant needles. Ah, the transporter. The ultimate dream of instant travel without traffic jams, airport security, or lost luggage. While we're not quite beaming ourselves across the galaxy yet, scientists are making some mind-blowing breakthroughs in quantum teleportation. We've successfully teleported information between particles, which is the first step towards teleporting larger objects, and maybe, just maybe one day, even people. It's a long way off, but hey, a guy can dream, right? Warp drive, the holy grail of space travel. The ability to travel faster than light and explore the vastness of space is a dream that has captivated humanity for centuries. While we haven't quite cracked the code of bending spacetime, physicists are exploring theoretical concepts like the Alcubierre drive. This theoretical concept involves compressing spacetime in front of a spacecraft and expanding it behind, essentially creating a warp bubble that allows for faster-than-light travel. It's all very complex and theoretical, but hey, even the impossible has to start somewhere. Remember when the Romulans would decloak and scare the living daylights out of everyone? Yeah, cloaking technology is pretty awesome. While we haven't quite figured out how to make starships invisible, scientists are making progress with metamaterials. These materials can manipulate light and other electromagnetic waves, bending them around objects and making them appear invisible. We're still in the early stages, but who knows, maybe one day we'll have invisibility cloaks for ourselves. Remember how easy it was for the Enterprise crew to communicate with alien species? No awkward gestures or frantic dictionary searches, just seamless, real-time translation. Well, guess what? We're getting closer to that reality with real-time translation apps. These apps can translate spoken and written language almost instantly, breaking down communication barriers and bringing people together. It's not quite universal translator level yet, but it's a huge step in the right direction. Data was the ultimate artificial life form, capable of learning, evolving, and even experiencing emotions. And while we haven't quite created sentient androids, yet, artificial intelligence is rapidly advancing. From self-driving cars to virtual assistants like Siri and Alexa, AI is becoming increasingly integrated into our lives. And as AI continues to learn and evolve, who knows what amazing things it will be capable of in the future. Remember the emergency medical hologram, or EMH from Voyager? He was a lifesaver, literally, and a pretty good doctor, even if he was a little grumpy at times. While we might not have holographic doctors beaming into our living rooms yet, telemedicine is becoming increasingly common. With telemedicine, we can consult with doctors remotely via video chat, getting medical advice and even diagnoses without leaving our homes. And with advancements in virtual reality, who knows, maybe one day we'll have our own holographic medical companions. Remember when the Enterprise would use its tractor beam to pull in disabled ships or deflect asteroids? It was always a tense moment, but the tractor beam always seemed to save the day. While we haven't quite figured out how to manipulate gravity on a large scale, scientists are developing acoustic tractor beams. These beams use sound waves to levitate and manipulate small objects. And while we're not towing starships with sound yet, the technology has potential applications in various fields, from medicine to manufacturing. Energy shields were a crucial part of the Enterprise's defenses, deflecting enemy fire and protecting the ship from harm. And while we haven't quite figured out how to create impenetrable energy barriers, scientists are exploring the use of plasma windows. These windows use a thin layer of superheated plasma to create a barrier that is both transparent and incredibly strong, potentially capable of deflecting lasers and other energy weapons. It's a long way from a full-fledged energy shield, but it's a step in the right direction. Phasers, the iconic Star Trek weapon that could stun, heat, or vaporize depending on the setting. And while we're not quite zapping each other with phasers yet, directed energy weapons are becoming a reality. Lasers are already being used in military applications, and researchers are developing more advanced directed energy weapons that could revolutionize warfare. Let's just hope they come equipped with a stun setting. Remember Data's positronic brain, powered by those weird bioneural gel packs? They were a strange mix of organic and synthetic technology, and they were essential to Data's existence. While we haven't quite figured out how to create positronic brains, biocomputing is a rapidly growing field. Scientists are exploring the use of biological materials such as DNA and proteins to create computers that are smaller, faster, and more efficient than traditional silicon-based computers. It's a strange new world of computing, and it's only just beginning. Isolinear chips were the data storage devices of the Star Trek universe, capable of holding vast amounts of information. And while we don't have isolinear chips yet, data storage technology has come a long way since the days of floppy disks. From tiny microSD cards that can hold terabytes of data to cloud storage services that give us access to our files from anywhere in the world, we're living in an age of information abundance. And as data storage technology continues to advance, who knows what amazing feats we'll be capable of? Deflector shields were the first line of defense for starships, deflecting space debris, radiation, and even enemy fire. And while we haven't quite figured out how to create impenetrable force fields, we're making progress with protective shielding technology, from radiation shielding for astronauts to ablative materials that protect spacecraft during atmospheric re-entry. We're constantly developing new ways to protect our vehicles and ourselves from the harsh realities of space. Subspace communication was the backbone of Starfleet, allowing for instant communication across vast interstellar distances. And while we haven't quite cracked the code of faster-than-light communication, we're making strides with quantum entanglement. This bizarre phenomenon allows for instantaneous communication between entangled particles, regardless of distance. It's still in its early stages, but quantum entanglement has the potential to revolutionize communication as we know it. Exocomps were those adorable little robots that could fix anything on the Enterprise, and while we haven't quite created sentient robot companions, yet, autonomous robots are becoming increasingly common. From self-driving cars to robots that can perform surgery, we're relying more and more on machines to perform complex tasks. And, as robotics technology continues to advance, who knows what amazing things these mechanical marvels will be capable of. Nanotechnology was everywhere in Star Trek, from medical nanites to self-repairing materials. And while we haven't quite reached Star Trek levels of nanotech mastery, we're making incredible progress. From nanomaterials that are stronger than steel, to nanoscale sensors that can detect diseases at the cellular level, nanotechnology is revolutionizing medicine, manufacturing, and countless other fields. The future is small, but it's also incredibly exciting. Quantum computers were mentioned a few times in Star Trek, hinting at their immense processing power. And while we haven't quite reached Star Trek levels of quantum computing, we're making significant strides. Quantum computers leverage the principles of quantum mechanics to perform calculations that are impossible for traditional computers. This has the potential to revolutionize fields like medicine, materials science, and artificial intelligence. The future of computing is quantum, and it's going to be mind-blowing. Remember those replicator rations that kept Starfleet crews fed on long missions? They weren't exactly gourmet meals, but they were surprisingly edible. And while we haven't quite figured out how to replicate food from thin air, we're making progress with food synthesis technology. From lab-grown meat to three-dimensional printed food, we're exploring new ways to produce food that are more sustainable and efficient. So maybe one day, we'll all be enjoying replicator rations on our next camping trip. The Holosuites on the Enterprise D were the ultimate escape, allowing crew members to experience anything they could imagine. And while we haven't quite reached that level of immersive entertainment, we're getting closer with advancements in virtual and augmented reality. From VR gaming to AR experiences that overlay digital content onto the real world, we're constantly pushing the boundaries of immersive entertainment. So maybe one day, we'll all have our own Holosuites to escape to. Personal force fields were a rare but awesome sight in Star Trek, providing an invisible barrier against attacks. And while we haven't quite figured out how to create personal force fields, we're making progress with wearable technology for protection. From airbag jackets that inflate on impact to exoskeletons that enhance strength and endurance, we're developing new ways to protect ourselves from harm. So maybe one day, we'll all have our own personal force fields to keep us safe. Remember those biobeds in sickbay that could scan, diagnose, and even treat patients? They were like mini hospitals in a bed. And while we haven't quite reached that level of medical technology, we're making progress with advanced medical beds. From beds that monitor vital signs to beds that provide targeted therapy, we're developing new ways to improve patient care and comfort. So maybe one day, we'll all be recovering from illness in our own personal biobeds. Neural interfaces were a bit of a mixed bag in Star Trek, used for everything from communication to mind control. And while we haven't quite figured out how to plug our brains into computers, we're making progress with brain-computer interface technology. From devices that allow paralyzed patients to control prosthetic limbs with their thoughts, to experimental technologies that allow for direct brain-to-brain communication, we're exploring the incredible potential of the human mind. The future of brain-computer interfaces is both exciting and a little bit terrifying. Remember when Scotty told those 20th century engineers about transparent aluminum? They thought he was crazy, but guess what? It's real. Transparent aluminum, also known as aluminum oxynitride, is a ceramic material that is both transparent and incredibly strong. It's used in a variety of applications from bulletproof windows to smartphone screens. So yeah, Scotty was right. Antimatter was the fuel source for the Enterprise, providing nearly limitless energy. And while we haven't quite figured out how to harness the power of antimatter for practical use, we're making progress with antimatter research. Scientists have been able to create and trap small amounts of antimatter, and while it's still a long way from powering starships, antimatter has the potential to revolutionize energy production. Just be careful not to mix it with matter, or you might have a bit of an explosion. Geordi LaForge's VISOR was a technological marvel, allowing him to see the electromagnetic spectrum. And while we haven't quite reached that level of visual prosthetic technology, we're making incredible progress. From retinal implants that restore some vision to the blind to experimental technologies that allow us to see in infrared and ultraviolet, we're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So maybe one day, we'll all be able to see the world through Geordi's eyes. So there you have it, 30 pieces of Star Trek tech that we have in the real world. It's amazing to see how science fiction has inspired real-world innovation, and it makes you wonder what incredible technologies will develop in the future. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you enjoyed this video or podcast, please like and subscribe, or consider helping us grow and be ad-free by visiting us at Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. You can find the links in the description below. Live long and prosper, and keep on exploring the final frontier.